The mysterious discovery emerges empire. In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, a team of alien explorers aboard the vessel Nebula's Grace drifted through space, their sensors scanning countless star systems. The explorers were part of the Valfar Empire, a highly advanced civilization known for their deep space exploration. They had traveled far and wide, cataloging worlds, collecting knowledge, and uncovering secrets buried in the vastness of space. But this mission would be unlike any other. For months, their scanners had detected strange, erratic signals coming from a forgotten part of the galaxy, a place once thought to be empty. These signals were unlike anything the Valfar Empire had encountered. They were old, ancient even, yet there was something unmistakably powerful about them. The signals seemed to be calling out to them, leading them toward the dark, mysterious planet at the center of their search, Earth. No records existed about this planet. No information about its history, people, or even its location. Earth was nothing more than a faint memory in the galaxy's old archives, a place forgotten by time and civilization. Yet, as the Valfar explorers drew closer, they found themselves intrigued, filled with a sense of unease that they couldn't shake. This planet, once abandoned, was hiding something important. The ship's captain, Lyona, stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the swirling void of space. Her sharp eyes narrowed as Earth came into view, a blue-green orb in the distance. The planet seemed peaceful at first glance, its oceans shimmering under the light of a distant sun, its continents visible from space. But Lyona's intuition told her there was more to this planet than met the eye. "Prepare for landing," she commanded. Her voice, calm and confident, cut through the hum of the ship's control room. "We'll start our investigation on the surface. Be on alert. We don't know what we're walking into." The crew, an experienced team of scientists, historians, and engineers, nodded silently, their faces set with determination. They knew this mission was unlike any other. If the signals they had traced were any indication, Earth held secrets far beyond their understanding. Secrets that had been left untouched for eons. As the Nebula's Grace descended through Earth's atmosphere, the explorers felt a strange pull. It wasn't just the planet's gravity, but something else, something intangible. The air felt thick with mystery. The team's excitement grew, but so did their wariness. What had happened to this planet? Where were its inhabitants? Why had the signals suddenly appeared after all this time? The ship landed in a remote location, far from any major cities or settlements. The surface was covered in thick forests, ancient and untouched by civilization. The explorers stepped out of the ship and into the cool, silent air of Earth. The planet was eerily quiet, as if time itself had stood still. No sounds of animals, no rustling of wind through the trees, just silence. Lyona led her team forward, scanning their surroundings. They were in the heart of what appeared to be a long-forgotten forest. The trees were tall and twisted, their leaves a deep shade of green, but everything felt abandoned. There were no signs of life, no human activity. Yet, as they walked deeper into the forest, they began to notice something strange. Structures buried beneath the vines and moss. Massive ancient ruins that seemed to be part of a long-lost civilization. This is incredible," whispered Kale, the team's historian. "Look at this architecture. It's unlike anything we've seen. It must be from a species far more advanced than any civilization we encountered." Lyona surveyed the ruins carefully. The stone buildings were covered in strange markings, symbols that the Valfar team could not decipher. But what struck her the most were the enormous half-buried structures scattered throughout the landscape. They weren't just ordinary buildings. Some appeared to be large, metallic vessels, with designs that suggested they were built for war, not peace. The team began their investigation, carefully documenting every detail. The ruins seemed to tell a story, though it was one that had long since been lost to time. Strange, almost otherworldly artifacts were scattered throughout the area. Weapons, armor, and technological devices, many of which were still operational, Despite their age, it was clear that the people of Earth had been preparing for something big. As the explorers ventured deeper into the ruins, they uncovered more and more evidence of Earth's past, a civilization that had vanished without a trace. The signs of war were everywhere. Massive bunkers hidden underground, weapons of war that seemed more advanced than anything the Valthar Empire had ever encountered, and records of battles fought long before the explorers had arrived. Then, deep within the heart of the ruins, the team discovered a massive underground facility. It was unlike anything they had seen on any other planet. The walls were covered with intricate designs and symbols, some of which seemed to glow faintly with a strange energy. As they explored the facility, they discovered something that took their breath away. Massive ships, war machines, unbelievably advanced vessels that could travel across the galaxy. These weren't just remnants of a long-dead civilization. These were Earth's last defense, a fleet of ships that had been abandoned, their purpose long forgotten. Lyanna's heart raced as she realized the significance of what they had uncovered. Earth had been more than just a lost planet. It had been home to an empire, one that had fought wars beyond their understanding, one that had built a fleet capable of unmatched destruction. The team exchanged nervous glances. What had happened to the people of Earth? Why had they disappeared? And most importantly, what was the fleet designed for? The answers lay somewhere deep in the ruins, hidden away for 500,000 years. But one thing was certain: the mysteries of Earth were far from over. And the nebula's grace had just uncovered the first chapter of a story that could change the galaxy forever. The search begins. The air on Earth felt strange to the Valthar explorers. There was something unnerving about the silence that surrounded them. As they ventured deeper into the ancient ruins, the gravity of their discovery began to sink in. They had uncovered a planet that had been abandoned for 500,000 years, yet it was not completely empty. The remnants of a once great civilization were everywhere, left untouched by time, waiting to be explored. Captain Lyanna gathered her team together. "We need to focus," she said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "We've uncovered part of Earth's past, but we don't know what this fleet was designed for. We need to find more answers, more clues." The team nodded in agreement. The deeper they explored, the more they realized that Earth's former inhabitants had left behind something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. What kind of civilization built such powerful weapons? Why had they disappeared without a trace? The team split into smaller groups to cover more ground. Lyanna, Kale, the historian, and Riva, the scientist, moved toward the largest of the buried structures. It was clear that this had once been some kind of command center or military base. The walls were thick with dust and decay, but the technology inside was shockingly intact. The control panels flickered to life with a touch, displaying ancient records in languages that no one on the ship could fully understand. "Look at this," Kale said, pointing to a set of holographic projections that had come to life. The images were hazy, but they showed massive fleets of ships engaged in fierce space battles, with Earth's war machines at the forefront. It was a breathtaking sight. The ships, built to withstand the harshest conditions of space, were unlike anything the Valthar Empire had ever seen. "The fleet," Lyanna whispered. "It was meant for war, but who were they fighting?" The more they uncovered, the more questions arose. The images on the screen flickered, and the group moved closer, eager to uncover more of the story. The footage showed a massive space station orbiting a distant planet, surrounded by enemy ships that seemed to be a mixture of organic and mechanical creatures. The images showed humanity's war machines in action, destroying the invaders with brutal precision. Riva tapped away at the controls, her eyes widening with each passing second. This is unbelievable. These ships, they were not just tools of war. They were designed to protect this galaxy from an external threat. Lyanna furrowed her brow. A threat from outside this galaxy. What kind of enemy could humanity have faced? Kale stared at the projection, his mind racing with possibilities. Whoever they were fighting must have been powerful enough to force humanity to create this massive defense network. And yet, humanity is gone, and the fleet lies dormant. Suddenly, an alert went off on Lyona's console. She turned quickly to Riva, who was working tirelessly to decipher the information. "What is it?" "I'm picking up a signal," Riva said, her voice tense. "It's coming from the fleet's central command. It's faint, but it's there. It's as if the fleet itself is still trying to communicate with someone." Lyona's heart skipped a beat. The fleet, could it be trying to wake up? Kel's eyes widened. Could it be that Earth's war machines were never truly meant to sleep? What if they were waiting for something? Waiting for someone to reactivate them? The group exchanged nervous glances. The signal was growing stronger, and the more they looked into it, the more they realized that the fleet's power wasn't just technological. It was alive, in some sense. Perhaps it had been dormant, waiting for the right moment to act. "We need to find the source of that signal," Lyona said firmly. "We can't risk the fleet reactivating without understanding what's really going on." The team hurried through the ruined complex, following the faint signal, which led them deeper underground, into a labyrinth of tunnels that seemed to stretch forever. The walls, once covered in vibrant symbols and ancient writings, were now cracked and covered in layers of grime. Yet despite the decay, the technology still hummed with a faint, steady energy. It was clear that Earth's military might was still alive, still watching, still waiting. As they reached the heart of the complex, they came upon a large chamber. At the center of the room stood a massive control panel, its surface covered in dust. But as Riva approached, the panel began to flicker, lights blinking on and off. The signal was coming from here, and the team could feel the tension in the air. The chamber was vast, and something about it felt wrong, like they were intruding on something that was never meant to be disturbed. "This is it," Riva said, her voice barely a whisper. "This is where it all began." Lyona nodded. "Let's see what secrets this place holds." With a deep breath, Riva activated the control panel. The room lit up, revealing a series of complex holographic maps and detailed records about Earth's war fleet. As the images flickered to life, they saw Earth's history unfold before their eyes. The fleet had been built not just to defend Earth, but to guard against an unknown cosmic threat, one that even now might still be out there, lurking in the farthest corners of the universe. "Whatever happened to humanity," Lyona said softly, "they built this fleet for a reason. And whatever they were fighting, it's not over. Not yet." The team stood in awe, realizing that the answers they sought were still just beyond their reach. But one thing was certain: the mystery of Earth's war fleet was only just beginning to unfold, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Uncovering the war fleet. The deeper the team ventured into the underground complex, the more they uncovered. The air grew thicker with tension, and the silence seemed even more profound. They had come for answers, and yet every moment seemed to bring more questions. The massive control room they had uncovered was only the beginning of what Earth's war fleet truly was. The holographic maps flickered and shifted, showing images of vast space battles. Hundreds of ships, their sleek, powerful forms soaring through the stars, each a piece of humanity's massive war machine. But what struck the team the most was the scale of the fleet. It wasn't just a defense system. It was an empire's military force, built to fight something far greater than any war they had ever known. "This is unimaginable," Kale murmured, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. He moved closer to one of the holographic projections that showed Earth's war fleet in its prime. "These ships, these designs, they're unlike anything we've seen. These weren't just weapons. These were symbols of humanity's strength." Lyona stood still, watching the projections with a growing sense of awe. Each ship, each weapon was meticulously crafted. They weren't just meant for war, they were designed to be unstoppable. The sheer power of the fleet was overwhelming, And Lyona began to realize that whatever humanity had been preparing for, it was something that had shaken their very foundations. They were ready for something, Lyona whispered, more to herself than anyone else. But ready for what? As the team examined more of the records, they pieced together a chilling story. The fleet had been built in the wake of an unknown galactic war. Something or someone had threatened the very existence of Earth and its people. Humanity, despite its many achievements, had understood that they needed to build something that would ensure their survival, a fleet so powerful that nothing could stand in its way. The more they uncovered, the more they realized that the war fleet had been built not only to defend Earth, but to take the fight to the stars. It was designed to patrol the galaxy, seeking out any force that might threaten humanity's safety. They had anticipated that one day, Earth might be a target for an invasion, and they were prepared for that battle, no matter where it took them. As the team sifted through the ancient documents, they uncovered the shocking truth. Humanity had never truly been alone in the galaxy. While they had once believed their world to be isolated, it seemed they were part of a larger cosmic network of civilizations. Some were peaceful, others less so, and one, in particular, was identified as a threat. It was a species that had been watching Earth for centuries, waiting for the right moment to strike. The fleet had been built as a countermeasure to their inevitable invasion. Riva, the scientist, looked up from her screen, her face pale. This isn't just about Earth's past. This is a warning. She stepped away from the terminal, a sense of urgency filling her voice. These ships were built to fight an enemy that's still out there. The signals we picked up weren't just random. They were a distress signal. Earth's war fleet is waiting for something to happen. Lyona felt a chill run down her spine. The realization hit her hard. We thought this was just a long-dead planet. But it's not. This fleet, it's still here, waiting. The team exchanged uneasy glances. They had hoped to find answers, to understand what had happened to Earth. But the more they discovered, the more they realized how little they knew. The fleet was only the beginning. There were still so many questions left unanswered. And the more they dug, the more dangerous the truth seemed to become. They continued their exploration, moving deeper into the complex. The walls seemed to hum with energy as they passed, as if the entire facility was alive with a purpose they couldn't yet understand. They came across another set of doors, larger and more imposing than any they had seen before. The doors were covered in thick layers of dust, but as Lyona and her team approached, they began to slide open slowly, as if welcoming them into the heart of the mystery. Inside, they found what could only be described as a command center. It was enormous, with rows upon rows of control panels, weapon systems, and data storage units. At the center of the room stood a massive holographic projection of the entire war fleet. The ships were lined up in perfect formation, their massive sizes dwarfing everything around them. But it wasn't just the fleet that caught their attention. It was the central object floating in the middle of the room. A large, spherical structure, pulsating with a strange, faint light. It was the source of the signal. This object, this artifact, was the key to unlocking the true purpose of Earth's war fleet. "This is it," Kale said, awe and fear mixing in his voice. "This is what we've been looking for." Lyona stepped forward, her heart racing. She knew that whatever this was, it would provide the final answers they needed. But she also knew that the answers could change everything. Humanity had created something far more powerful than anyone could have ever imagined. And it was waiting for something. "What now?" Riva asked, her voice tense. Lyona hesitated for a moment before answering. "Now, we learn everything we can, and we prepare. Because whatever humanity was preparing for, I don't think it's over yet." With that, they began to analyze the mysterious object at the heart of the complex, knowing that the answers they sought would not only reveal Earth's forgotten legacy, but might also point to a future they weren't prepared for. The fleet was ready to rise again. But the question was, who or what would it fight, and was it already too late? The legacy of humanity. As the team stood before the pulsating sphere, the weight of their discovery began to settle in. The enormous holographic display of Earth's war fleet hovered above them, showing ships, weapons, and technologies far beyond what the Valthar Empire had ever seen. But it wasn't just the power of the fleet that left them in awe. It was the purpose behind it all. Humanity had not just been preparing for a war, they had been preparing to protect the galaxy itself. Lyanna stood still, her eyes focused on the central object, now surrounded by intricate holographic blueprints of the fleet. She could feel the gravity of the situation. What did they leave behind? Why did they build this fleet? She wondered aloud, more to herself than anyone else. Kale, the historian, was deeply absorbed in the ancient records. His voice was laced with disbelief as he pieced together more of Earth's past. The fleet, it wasn't just about Earth. It was about the survival of the entire galaxy. Humanity built these ships to defend themselves from an external force. Something or someone out there threatened them. And they knew the only way to fight back was by creating a fleet of unimaginable power. Riva stepped closer to the central sphere. Her fingers hovered over its surface, tracing patterns in the air as the holograms shifted and revealed more. They weren't just warriors, she said softly. They were visionaries. They saw a threat that no one else could see. They built these ships to fight an enemy from beyond the stars, an enemy that never stopped coming. Lyanna absorbed Riva's words. It became clearer that humanity's fleet was not just a defense mechanism. It was a statement that Earth and any civilization under its protection would not be easily crushed. They had not just built weapons. They had built a legacy of strength, one that would endure even in the face of extinction. Kale looked up from the data terminal. His face was pale, but there was a fire in his eyes. The records are clear. Humanity fought back against an invasion from a race known as the HFY. They were a destructive species, powerful, ruthless, and relentless. And Earth's war fleet, it was humanity's answer to their cruelty. The HFY were a mysterious species, described as a fusion of organic and mechanical life. They traveled through the stars, consuming resources and annihilating anyone who stood in their way. Humanity, in their desperation, had faced the HFY and realized that the only way to survive was not to hide, but to fight. The fleet was built for that singular purpose, to stop the HFY, to protect Earth, and to safeguard other civilizations in the galaxy from their wrath. The war machines humanity had crafted were unparalleled in design and firepower. Each ship was equipped with advanced weaponry that could obliterate entire fleets. They were designed for not only offense, but also to withstand anything the HFY could throw at them. But the history was even darker. Humanity had won many battles, but the HFY had never been fully defeated. Earth's war fleet had been prepared for a long, drawn-out conflict, one that humanity might never fully win. And just as the war raged on, Earth itself had vanished. Why did they leave? Lyanna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kale turned to face her, his expression grim. The records are incomplete, but from what we can gather, Earth was lost to the HFY, or something else. The fleet was abandoned, left to drift in space, waiting for its next command. The HFY must have destroyed their homeworld. That's the only explanation. Earth was silenced, and the fleet was left behind to guard the galaxy. The team fell silent. The implications of this were immense. The war was far from over. Earth's war fleet, with all its power and advanced technology, was still here, dormant but alive. And now, the Valthar explorers were standing on the precipice of something they couldn't fully comprehend. Riva pulled up more data, focusing on the last transmissions sent from the fleet before Earth's fall. Her fingers danced across the controls, and an audio recording began to play through the room. It was faint, distorted by time, but the message was clear. We are the last line of defense. The HFY will return. Do not let their invasion succeed. Protect the galaxy. Earth's legacy will live on through you. Lyanna's heart skipped a beat as she listened to the final words. It was a warning, a plea to those who came after. The fleet had been humanity's final effort to protect not just their home, but the entire galaxy from annihilation. "We have to prepare," Lyoma said, her voice full of determination. "The Xyphor will return. They have to." The fleet was waiting for something, for a signal, and we'd given it that signal. Now we have to act. Kale stepped forward, a sense of urgency in his voice. "We need to activate the fleet. We need to learn everything we can about how it works, how it can be used. This is Earth's last gift to the galaxy, and we can't let it go to waste." Riva nodded in agreement. "We can't waste any more time. The Xyphor are out there, and they'll come for this fleet when they find out it's still alive." But as they began to examine the control systems more closely, something strange happened. The central sphere's glow intensified, and a low hum filled the room. It was as if the fleet itself was waking up, responding to the presence of new beings, eager to continue its mission. Lyona felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. The fleet was stirring. Earth's legacy was not just history. It was about to become their future. And with the Xyphor lurking out there, they would have to face the full weight of humanity's last defense. But the question lingered. Would the fleet be enough? The awakening. The air in the chamber had grown heavier, charged with a strange energy. The central sphere's glow pulsed with a rhythmic intensity, as if the very heartbeat of Earth's war fleet was beginning to echo through the walls. Lyona stood still, her eyes fixed on the glowing orb. Something had changed. It wasn't just the activation of the fleet's systems. It felt like the fleet itself was aware, responding to their presence, waiting for something. "We've done it," Riva whispered, her fingers trembling as they hovered over the controls. "It's waking up." Lyona stepped closer to the control panel, her mind racing. What had they awakened? The fleet, once a dormant force, was now stirring to life. But would it obey them, or was it bound by its own ancient programming? Humanity had built it to be unstoppable, but it was also designed with a purpose: to protect. And now, with the Valfar explorers at its helm, the fleet might finally fulfill its mission. "Focus," Lyona commanded. Her voice steadied, despite the growing sense of unease. "We need to gain full control. If the fleet is going to fight again, we need to understand how it works." Kale was the first to approach the control panel, his hands working quickly to activate the systems. The walls around them flickered with holographic displays, revealing maps of distant galaxies, star systems, and the fleet's long-forgotten missions. The scale of what humanity had created began to unfold before their eyes. Massive ships capable of defending against the most formidable of enemies. Riva's face remained locked on the sphere. "It's like it's alive," she murmured. "These ships, they were designed to act as one, a collective consciousness. The fleet doesn't just follow orders. It becomes a part of the commander's will. We can't just point and direct it like a regular fleet. It's a living organism, responding to the one who controls it." Lyona's heart skipped a beat. The fleet was more than just powerful. It was sentient, capable of adapting to commands in ways the Valfar Empire's technology couldn't replicate. Humanity had not only created warships of unimaginable power, they had crafted a defense system that could think and act as one, unified by a single purpose. And now, that purpose had been reignited. Suddenly, the central sphere emitted a low, vibrating hum. The ship's control panels blinked, and the holographic maps shifted. The fleet's location, its status, its systems, all appeared in vivid detail. But one thing stood out. The fleet was on alert, its ships prepared for battle. "It's waiting for something," Kale said, studying the data. "It's waiting for a signal to activate fully, a command to begin its mission." Riva narrowed her eyes. "That can't be good. If the fleet activates and the Xyphor haven't arrived yet, we could be looking at a disaster." Lyona's gaze hardened. "It's been dormant for 500,000 years. We can't wait for the Xyphor to find us. We need to be the ones in control." The team worked tirelessly, accessing every layer of data, unlocking the secrets of Earth's war fleet. The deeper they delved, the more they realized how advanced the fleet's systems were. Weapons capable of destroying entire planets, shields that could withstand even the most devastating of blows, and propulsion systems that allowed the ships to travel faster than the speed of light. But despite the power at their fingertips, there was still one thing that bothered Lyona: the fleet's final purpose. The mission humanity had set in place all those years ago was far more than just defense. The fleet wasn't just designed to protect Earth. It was a force built to prevent a cosmic catastrophe. The Xyphor, Lyona muttered under her breath. Humanity knew they would return, and they built the fleet to stop them. But we don't know if the fleet's ready for this fight. We don't know if it's capable of fighting something as powerful as the Xyphor, if they're even still out there. Cale stepped back from the console, his mind spinning with the enormity of what they had uncovered. We're not just dealing with ancient technology. We're dealing with a living, breathing weapon of war. It's as though humanity thought this fleet was their last hope. And maybe it still is. Riva stepped up to the controls, her fingers moving with precision. We need to establish a connection with the fleet. If we don't, we'll never be able to control it. The fleet has its own mind, but it will respond to the right signal. We just have to hope we can send it the right one. The team watched in silence as Riva worked her way through the ship's systems. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. With every keystroke, the glow of the central sphere grew stronger, and the hum of the fleet's activation became more pronounced. The ships were waiting for a command to rise again. And then, as if the very heart of Earth's fleet had been awakened, a message flashed across the control panel. It was short, simple, and clear. Command received. Fleet activated. Lyona stood still, her mind racing. It's ready. It's alive. The fleet is waking up. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet trembled, and a low rumble filled the chamber. It wasn't just the power of the fleet waking up. It was Earth itself. The massive warships, long dormant, began to stir in the distance, rising from their hidden bunkers, ready to take to the stars once again. Riva's voice trembled with excitement. We've done it. The fleet is ready to fight. But as the team looked out over the vast landscape, a chilling realization settled in. The fleet was no longer just a relic of Earth's past. It was humanity's last line of defense. And now, the Valthar explorers were its commanders, tasked with an unimaginable responsibility. As the fleet began to rise into the sky, Lyona's gaze hardened. They were no longer just observers. They were part of Earth's legacy, and the fate of the galaxy now rested in their hands. But the question remained, what would they fight? And were they prepared for what lay ahead? The power of the fleet. The moment the fleet began to stir, the world around the Valthar explorers changed. The ground beneath their feet trembled as Earth's ancient war machines, long dormant, began to rise from their hiding places, one by one. Towering ships, once hidden beneath layers of soil and rock, shot up from the depths, their sleek metallic forms cutting through the sky. Massive engines roared to life, propelling them upward into the atmosphere. The hum of their systems filled the air, creating an overwhelming sense of power that could not be ignored. The explorers stood in awe as they watched the fleet rise. Hundreds of warships, fighters, and support vessels, all equipped with weapons and technologies that were far beyond anything the Valthar Empire had ever encountered. This was not just a fleet. It was a force unlike any other. We've awakened it, Lyona said, her voice barely above a whisper. The full weight of the responsibility they now carried was sinking in. It's real. It's ready. The central control system, which they had painstakingly activated, was now alive with activity. The fleet was communicating with the control center, sending constant updates on its status. Each ship's weapon systems were powered on. Each vessel's engines were primed for flight. But as Lyona watched the glowing data, a troubling thought gnawed at her. They're ready for war, she said grimly. But who exactly are they going to fight? Cale, standing beside her, Scan the data more closely. The fleet isn't just about Earth's defense. The systems indicate it's programmed to respond to external threats, and given the nature of the fleet's construction, it was made for a cosmic war. But if the Typhor are no longer a threat, we might not even understand what we're dealing with. Riva moved to another control panel, her fingers flying across the surface as she accessed additional information. We've only scratched the surface of its power. This fleet wasn't just built for one enemy. It's designed to adapt. Its weapon systems are vast and versatile. We're talking about energy-based weapons that can annihilate entire planets, defensive shields that can withstand the most advanced attacks, and propulsion systems that make this fleet faster than anything we could imagine. The room filled with a low, rumbling hum, and the data on the control screens intensified. A map of the galaxy appeared in the holograms, displaying Earth at its center. But as the team continued to analyze the data, they noticed something unsettling. The fleet wasn't just waiting for an enemy to appear. It was already targeting potential threats, scanning the stars for any sign of danger. Lyanna's hand hovered over the control panel, uncertain. Why is it already searching for threats? The Typhor are gone, and there are no immediate enemies to face. Who, or what else could this fleet be designed to fight? Before they could delve further into the mystery, a sudden alert flashed across the screens. A red warning light blinked urgently, and a voice crackled through the communication systems. Warning. Unknown signal detected. Approaching fleet detected at the outer edge of the system. Threat level. Unknown. Lyanna's heart skipped a beat. The fleet was already on high alert. Something, somewhere, was out there. A new threat, or something the fleet had been designed to face in the past. Activate defensive protocols. Lyanna ordered, her voice sharp with authority. The team moved quickly to follow her command, but a sense of dread began to settle over them. This was no longer just about activating a war machine. The fleet was already on the move, anticipating an enemy that they could not yet see. The holograms above them flickered as the fleet's systems began to power up. Energy readings surged, and the weapon systems began locking onto targets, unknown targets. The warships were ready to engage, their cannons charging and shields activating. The fleet was responding as though it had been awakened for this very moment, but the explorers still didn't know who or what the threat was. "We have to know what we're dealing with," Kale said urgently, his voice trembling with both fear and excitement. "We can't just unleash this fleet without understanding what it's facing." Lyanna nodded. "We need to locate the source of the threat before it's too late. We can't risk the fleet engaging without knowing if it's truly a danger. If it's a mistake, we'll be responsible for unleashing a conflict we can't control." As the fleet's ships began to move, ascending from Earth's atmosphere, the team scrambled to gather information. They monitored the incoming signals, trying to make sense of the unknown fleet approaching. The sensors were picking up only vague data, a strange, jumbled signal that was unlike anything they had encountered. It was unlike the Typhor's energy signatures, but there was an unmistakable sense of power behind it, and it was getting closer. Riva, scanning the data more intensely, narrowed her eyes. "It's not like anything we've seen before. It's alive. The signal is organic, but it's also mechanical. It's almost like it's a hybrid, a sentient force, like the fleet." Lyanna's mind raced as she processed Riva's words. Could there be another force out there? Something with the same power as Earth's fleet. She had assumed that the Typhor were the only enemy left to face, but the data was showing something entirely different. Could the fleet have been designed to fight something like this? She asked, more to herself than to her team. A force like itself. Before anyone could respond, the unknown fleet's presence was undeniable. The shadows of colossal ships appeared on the horizon of their sensors, moving faster than anything the team had seen before. The threat was real, and it was coming closer. "We have no choice," Lyanna said firmly, looking at her team with determination. "We must engage. The fleet is our only chance of surviving this. Let's get ready to fight." The team quickly moved into action, working together to bring the fleet to full readiness. Earth's war machines, once dormant for 500,000 years, were now their greatest hope, their greatest weapon. But as the unknown fleet approached, the team knew that the battle ahead would be unlike any they had ever faced. The stakes were higher than they could have ever imagined. The true test of Earth's legacy was about to begin. The final revelation. The unknown fleet was coming closer, its presence undeniable now. The dark silhouettes of massive ships loomed on the horizon of the explorer's sensors, moving steadily, but with a chilling calmness. The fleet had been built to defend against an unimaginable threat. And now, as its power surged and its ships powered up, the Valthar explorers found themselves at the center of a cosmic battle. One they were not entirely prepared for. Lyanna's pulse raced as she stared at the screen, tracking the approach of the enemy fleet. She gripped the armrest of her command chair, her mind swirling with the enormity of what was unfolding. What had they awakened? Could this new fleet be the HFY? Or was it something even more dangerous, something entirely new? "We're out of time," Kale said, his voice tense as he worked quickly to gather as much data as possible. "Whatever this fleet is, it's here, and it's on a collision course with Earth's war fleet. The threat is real, and if we don't act fast, the battle will be upon us." Lyanna nodded. She had spent so long trying to understand the fleet, to awaken it, to control it. But now, with the enemy so close, the time for understanding was over. Now, it was time to fight. "The fleet's ready," Reva said, her eyes focused on the control panel. "Weapons systems are online. Shields are primed. It's time." Lyanna stood, her voice steady, but filled with the weight of the moment. "Activate the fleet. Let's bring it to full readiness. We need to face this threat head-on." The central control panel flickered to life, and the holographic image of Earth's war fleet appeared once again, this time, showing the full scale of the forces they had at their disposal. The ships were ready, and as Lyanna and her team made the final preparations, the fleet's massive warships rose into space, ready to meet the incoming enemy head-on. The alien fleet was now visible on their sensors, an imposing sight of dark, imposing ships that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural energy. They were fast, moving at an incredible speed, and their presence filled the vast emptiness of space with an overwhelming sense of power. Lyanna's mind raced as she looked at the incoming fleet. "We need to act quickly. Initiate a defensive perimeter. Don't let them get any closer to Earth. Deploy the warships." The Valthar fleet, once dormant, now sprang to life. The ships moved in perfect synchronization, their enormous weapons charging and ready to fire. The energy shields flickered to life, surrounding each vessel with an impenetrable barrier. Earth's war fleet was a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. As the two fleets closed in on each other, the tension became unbearable. The unknown fleet was closer now, its ships gliding through space with eerie precision. There was no communication, just the cold, relentless approach of an enemy that had to be stopped. Then, just as the two fleets were about to engage, a sudden transmission came through the comms. It wasn't a weapon, it was a voice unlike anything they had ever heard. "This is the unseen. We have come for Earth's legacy. Stand down or face the consequences." Lyanna froze, her mind racing. The unseen. Who were they? The message was clear, but their intentions were as vague as the name itself. Were these the same HFY? Had humanity created another force capable of such destruction? The moment of truth had arrived. Lyanna knew they had no choice but to fight. The fleet was ready, and the unseen had given their warning. But there was something else. The tone of the voice, the coldness in it, suggested this was no ordinary enemy. The unseen weren't just a threat. They were a force of nature, an enigma that had been waiting in the shadows. Lyanna's voice was firm. "Activate offensive protocols. We can't afford to hesitate. Earth's legacy will live on." With a command, the warships of Earth's fleet fired. The first salvo of weapons unleashed a storm of energy across space, targeting the lead ships of the unseen fleet. The massive explosions sent shockwaves rippling through the vastness of space, but the unseen fleet didn't flinch. They responded with an energy blast of their own, one so powerful it shook the very core of the Valfar fleet. The two fleets collided, a clash of unimaginable force. Energy blasts, missiles, and powerful waves of radiation filled the void, as the warships from both sides engaged in a deadly dance. Earth's fleet fired relentlessly, their weapons designed for this very purpose, defending the galaxy from this kind of enemy. But the unseen ships were just as formidable, deflecting the blows and retaliating with weapons that seemed to bend space itself. As the battle raged on, Lyanna realized the truth. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was a fight for the legacy of Earth itself. The unseen weren't here for domination. They were here to claim Earth's fleet as their own, to take the power humanity had left behind. And yet, as the battle continued, the deeper truth began to emerge. The unseen were not just an enemy. They were a mirror image of what Earth had once been. Humanity had built its fleet to defend against such a force, but the unseen had done the same. Both had created weapons of unimaginable power. Both had been driven by a singular desire to protect their legacy at all costs. The battle between the two fleets continued to escalate, but something began to change. Earth's war fleet, with all its power and might, started to resonate with the unseen. The two fleets, once enemies, now seemed to be moving in sync, their energy signatures overlapping, as if both were destined to fight in the same war, one that had been waged for millennia. Lyanna's mind raced as she understood the final revelation. This war, this endless conflict between the fleets of Earth and the unseen, was not something that would end with a single victory. It was a war of legacies, of survival. The true fight wasn't for Earth's future. It was for the future of the galaxy, and both fleets had been created to ensure it survived, no matter the cost. With that realization, Lyanna gave the final order. The fleet fired one last time, and as the weapon's energy shot across space, the unseen fleet responded. A moment of peace settled over the battlefield as both fleets, now evenly matched, stood in silence. The galaxy was not ready for what would come next, but Earth's legacy, and the legacy of those who fought to protect it, would live on. The true enemy had always been the endless cycle of war, and the only way to break it was to finally understand what each side had created, and what they had to fight for.